Good morning, Keller Williams, and welcome to the first of 17 complimentary MAPS coaching calls. We are so excited to have you here this morning. My name is Marty Miller. I am a MAPS technology coach, an operating principal out of Katy, Texas, and a member of the Keller Williams University approved national trainer team here with Mike and Tim. Guys, introduce yourselves, and then we're going to jump right in.
Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
All right, Tim Beverlin. I am also a MAPS coach and a KWU approved trainer. And excited for the first of 17 calls coming your way, complimentary of MAPS here this holiday season.
Yeah, and I'm Mike Hillary. I'm a MAPS technology and leadership coach, MCA Hall of Fame class of 2024. And I think a few of you might be subscribers to these Mike's notes.
I love it. Guys, today's call, your clients forgot about you already. Top ways to create Mindshare that lasts. Kind of a harsh title there, but we got to come back to reality and the fact that oftentimes we know that clients say they'll use us again, and the reality is that they don't. So let's start off by a quick exercise, and then we're going to dive into some tips, some techniques, some tactics that we can use to make sure that we are oftentimes reminded and taking up mind share in our clients' focus. I want to do this exercise with you first. I want you to shout it out. Luckily, you're all on mute, so we can't hear you, but we can read your lips and we know what you're thinking. Shout out the first thing you think of. We're going to go through this 3 times. Not difficult. There's no wrong or right. But when I say fast food hamburger, what do you think of? Go. First thing you think of. Why was it McDonald's? All right. Now, some of you in California were like, no, Marty, it was In-N-Out. And yet the majority of you probably thought McDonald's is the best hamburger you've ever had. Probably not. Is it the cheapest you've ever had? Probably
Maybe.
not. Right. It's just always there. Right. It's always there. Let's do it another time. Right. So when you think of running shoe, it's the first thing you think of. Now, why did you say Nike? Because all the runners in the room know that Nike does not make the best running shoe. And yet, consistently, as I teach this course, it's the first brand that comes to mind. How do you make sure that you are the first brand that comes to mind when it's real estate? Last one, you ready? Gentlemen, this might be a little bit tougher, but ladies, you're going to nail this. When I say high-end handbag, why did you say Louis Vuitton, Shauna? I know you thought it, right? So it's always those three. Why are those the brands that we always think of? Today, we're really going to talk about some ideas that we as realtors can utilize to make sure that we become that brand for our clients. There's a quote from MREA. It's one of my famous quotes from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It comes from Dave Jinks. And the quote is this: my success in real estate is in direct proportion to the number of people when they think about real estate, think about me. And I'll say it again. My success, right? Your success, you can put yourself in Dave's place here. My success in real estate is in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think about real estate, think about me. So let me ask you a question, Gretchen, Dan, Susan. If I asked someone in your market, hey, realtor in blank, your city here, right? Realtor in Katy, Texas. What's the first thing they think of? Will it be your name? And if it's not, how do we get there? Essentially, the goal for today is how do we become the McDonald's, the Nike, the Louis Vuitton of real estate, such that if we were to actually use this same exercise in your town, and instead of talking about hamburgers and handbags and right, that kind of running shoe stuff, we talk about real estate and they were to say your name, how do we go about that? So that's the lead in from today. Tim, Mike, we got some important topics to discover and kind of talk about first. So let's dive into that, Mike. What do we need to make sure we're doing first? And then what are we going to do from that point on?
Well, we're in an environment right now where still the best way to ensure you're doing things the right way is to get written permission, right? So whenever possible, get them to say, yes, you can contact me. And the idea behind this, not only is it the most powerful way for you to do business, in fact, I don't know how many of you have read the latest NAR profile of home buyers and sellers. How many past sellers do you think have referred you at least once to one of their friends, to one of their colleagues? What do you think that percentage is? 80? Oh, I wish it was that high. It's 65% have referred you at least once. 20% have referred you at least 4 times. Right. And the most important piece of this is you left such an imprint with them
Oh,
that
that's
they felt
okay.
so compelled.
Um,
Oh, let's grab that. Graham is the best, everybody, at being the executive producer behind the scenes. So if you see him in the chat, give him a hand, right? So when you're communicating, right, make sure you are using your best authentic self. If you haven't seen the latest update last week, the FCC has updated how the TCPA works when it comes to AI technologies. You need to disclose and get opt-in if you're going to use any sort of AI generated voice, because people still want to talk to people and they don't want to be surprised by a bot, right?
That goes with chat and with voice, right, Mike? If
Chat
that's
and
voicemails, if
voice.
that's
Yep.
chat, if that's your Facebook Messenger, whatever that looks like, really important. Really important. I agree.
Well, and last I checked, Marty, I still have yet to see an AI or a non-person buy a house.
Yeah, AIs
right?
aren't. Now you never know, right? And yet I agree, AIs aren't buying houses quite yet. So let's talk about that roller coaster. When people get into real estate, I think the slide title that you had for this one was perfect, right? It's not their job to remember us. It's our job to make sure they remember us. Talk a little bit more about the roller coaster.
Yeah, because those referrals, those are coming immediately after you close the deal as a buyer or as a seller, right? And it's crazy to me that only 17% of buyers use the same agent again, and only 28% of sellers use the same agent again. And I think it's because they simply do not remember how to get a hold of their previous real estate agent. They're not flipping through their contact database as often as we are. We're the crazy ones who work with a CRM and a database and stay in touch with it. So as soon as they're through the transaction, they're emotionally moving into the new house. Their focus is completely elsewhere.
What do you see in that turn is like, so we've got the highs and the lows, right? The average turn time in your market, what are you typically seeing from the time that a person buys to the time the person sells?
And, they say it's 15. It's really been closer between 7 and 10.
7 to 10 years. Yeah, I see the same happening in Katy as well. Can you imagine driving past a McDonald's once and not driving past another McDonald's for 7 years? Right? If you didn't drive past those golden arches for 7 years and I said fast food hamburger, would it have been McDonald's or In-N-Out or Five Guys? Five Guys was popular in the chat. I'm not sure where that's coming from. We only have one here, but can you imagine if you only passed the golden arches every 7 years and that was the reason, right? So what are some other things we can make sure that they're utilizing, right, when it comes time to remembering us?
Well, so you have to make sure when you're communicating, it's something that makes sense in context to them, right? The 3 brands we talked at the top, they have consistent messaging all the time. You see the logo everywhere, and they're attempting to give you something useful, right? McDonald's, hey, I need to know exactly what I'm eating, even though I may be far away from home. You can get a consistent, you know exactly what you expect, right? Those fries are to a specific standard.
Yeah, I was asked, like, you ever had mayo on a McDonald's hamburger?
No.
I mean, just think about it. Have you ever had a McDonald's hamburger with mayo? Unless you requested it, and then you're maybe just a little interesting. And yet, right, whenever I order that kids meal, I know my kids are going to be happy because it's the same hamburger. It's the same 4 chicken nuggets, right? I love that there's consistency in the brand, consistency in the message, consistency in the method as well. I think we've got another slide to kind of talk about that a little bit as well. What is micro batching? You put this together. That was a term that I wasn't quite familiar with when you said micro batch. Tell me more about that.
Well, so here's the funny thing is if you attempt to communicate the same thing to everybody in a service industry, you're missing the mark. Because real estate is such a wide time scale between transactions typically, your message probably doesn't apply to over 90% of your audience in a given moment. And so you want to find the motivated. You want to find those smaller groups that you have a specific connection with. So I've been working with an agent in Indiana, and her background is in senior housing and working in retirement homes. And so we're working with her database to find, okay, who are the potential seniors who are moving out, right? Who are potentially the children who may be helping make that decision, who still has questions. And so getting to the real specifics based on what their needs are, or even better, if you've met them somewhere where you have a common interest, like I can't wait. Has anybody found the Vlasic pickleball puffs yet? Because that is going to be my gift to all my pickleballers is that snack.
Say it one more time. The what for pickleballers?
Uh, Vlasic, the pickle company, is coming out
Vlasic.
with a
Okay, you lost.
pickleball puff. Yeah, right. And so it's personalized, and yet it's pretty scalable for me to walk into the grocery store and say, "Hey, can y'all place a special order? I need like 50 of these."
Tim, if you were looking at micro batching your database, any groups that come to mind, Mike gave it a great example of the retirees. I'm sure the agent Mike's working with, her entire database isn't retiring. So she's got a small group there. What other micro batch groups might you have, or the agents you're working with right now have in their database?
Yeah, it's a great question. We think of like groups of 25 to 50. We know it also may be a little bit larger than that number as well. So maybe a really obvious one, if you're here with us live the week before a lot of our holidays kick off, would be, what holidays does your database celebrate?
So true.
Wouldn't it be great to send wishes that were in alignment with what your clients in your database, of course, in a TCPA compliant way, would like to receive? So that's one example. The other example that comes up is common interest. I hate to break this to everybody on the call, but not everyone in your database cares that you got a new listing. There is a percentage that cares a lot about a specific listing. It's probably not everyone in your database. So if we can start to even bring up common interests, like maybe you've got golfers in your community and you found that great listing in a golf community, or you just listed a house in a golf community, wouldn't it be great to send it to that group? Versus, I don't necessarily need to send a golf community to all those that want to be on the coast, that want to be beachfront properties. That would be a different style of touch. So again, holidays that they celebrate and then common interest is one way to break this down into 25 to 50 people at a time. I'll quote our friend Phil Jones, who said, if we're not careful with micro batching, or if we treat everyone the same in our database, we run the risk of bruising our database. Applying the same thing to everyone. Mike said it perfectly. That one size fits all just doesn't work.
And so many tech tools like punish you for that, for lack of a better term. Like it only takes 1 out of 1,000 people to report you as spam for you to be spam.
Yeah, so true. Tracy in the chat says she does some micro batching maybe around neighborhoods or schools. Mindy's using clients with college-bound seniors, becoming an empty nester. Clients with very young children looking to upsize. Mary Ellen even says, I do events and create more connected community of like-minded people. Mike, Roberta has a good question here in the chat. How do you find out their common interests? So what are some tools that we can use to do that?
Oh, I'm a big fan of being friends with them on social media. Like if they're interested in something, they post about it and they recommend it. They share it. They will comment about it. So that's probably the easiest way, lowest risk way.
I agree. I think utilizing a tagging system, right, is probably the next step because, you know, Mike just talked to me about Vlasic pickles and pickleball. And I will remember that today because it's such a unique example. And yet I might forget that a month from now, right? Mike likes pickles. So maybe I create a tag that says both likes pickles and likes pickleball, whatever that might be, right? So you're thinking about it now. I think social media is such a great tool. Tim, you had a great point about the holiday. It kind of makes me smile. The innocence of children. We went hayride Christmas light watching last night in an area here out in outside of Katy, and my 4-year-old was going past the house where it was completely blue and white. It even said Happy Hanukkah, right? And so that was clearly the holiday that this family was celebrating, but my 4-year-old doesn't understand. And there was a gentleman standing in the front yard and she yells out, Merry Christmas. And he just kind of smiled and said, Happy Holidays. And obviously it went right over her head. She didn't understand how that message didn't land with that resident, right? But knowing sort of what you do celebrate, and although we're always celebrating the holidays, you know, if my 4-year-old was a realtor, she might not have been the first in line for that gentleman to choose. So thinking about, do we know, especially around the holidays or those interests, hey, you're trying to sell your golf course listing to a bunch of people that don't play golf, right? So the Mike brought up the retiree community. That might be a great listing for someone that's retiring, right? But if you've got 4 elementary age kids and no time to even think to yourself, maybe the golf course house is not the one that I might be interested in primarily. So I think that's a fantastic example. We talked about some tools that we can utilize to sort of get that message and method out. Gentlemen, let's talk about a few of the 3 main applets in command that we can kind of run with on that.
Yeah, and the purpose of these tools we're looking at is how do you apply a system so that you can stay in constant contact? Going back to that question just for a second, one other way to find out more information about someone and their interest, a question to maybe ask yourself is, where did I meet this person? Often where you met someone will identify what their interests might be. If you met them at the PTA, okay, great. Now I may want a tag that has something to do with kids or the ages of those kids. That I meet them at like a high school PTA, a middle school, elementary school? What does that look like? So that I can start to, again, associate what touches would be appropriate for those individuals. So we're starting with smart plans, and kind of the purpose of smart plans, and we put it here on the slide, it really just maps out what is my systematic approach to stay in constant communication. Mike and Marty went through that roller coaster. There's an idea on that roller coaster that it represents not only multiple transactions from that person that's going to be receiving the touches, yet Mike pointed out some great stats. It also represents the opportunity for referral business along the way. It may represent the opportunity for investment business along the way, where they could be an investor in real estate. So when we think about smart plans, it's a great time of year to start thinking, what do I want as my touch program for the first quarter? Maybe for the second quarter. Hey, you know what? With smart plans, we can go out 365 days. Maybe I want to go ahead and plan my entire year of high level touches that are not so specific that I'm worried I need to change it in the future. I wouldn't want to put any predictions in there. And yet I want to make sure that I've got touches that would be advantageous throughout the course of the years. What's great is I already kind of know the holiday schedule for 2025. That's already been decided. I have a pretty good understanding for micro batching my database when the golfers are going to start to go out and think about playing golf and maybe get out on the course the first time, depending on where they are geographically. I can think about all my boaters and my beach people. When are they going to start to go back into the sand? Again, geographically depending. I don't know, Marty, you may still see people in your database going to the beach and enjoying the water in Texas.
Yeah, it was 80 degrees yesterday in Houston, Tim. They were playing golf like nobody's business.
There we go. Nobody in Chicagoland is going near any water right now, Mike.
Oh, it's
I'm sure.
50 degrees. This is golf weather.
There we go. So we've got some golfers. Hey, here in outside of Philadelphia, yeah, you're going to the beach, but you're not certainly touching that icy cold water unless you want to do the polar bear plunge. So we're looking at smart plans, systematizing your touches. The second tool we have on here is campaigns. Well, specifically around campaigns, email-based campaigns that I can pre-plan, I can preset, because I don't know about many people on this screen yet. I'm going to be celebrating some holidays that are going to involve me not being in front of my computer. Wouldn't it be great if I could go ahead and have December 25th set out to all of the people in my database that celebrate Christmas getting a touch, all the people that celebrate Hanukkah also getting a touch for the evening of December 25th, so that I don't have to think about it and I can be purposeful with the people in my world during that time. So another part of these tools, not only does it allow me to be purposeful in my touches, it also buys back some of my time. I can spend an hour or two coming up with effective touches for the first quarter and then kind of set it and forget it. Now, the third part of this becomes incredibly important, and it's going to the tasks inside a command are going to remind me when I need to take some action. Up until this point, I'm not aware of a system, and Marty or Mike, chime in here. Are you aware of a system that will write thoughtful handwritten notes on your behalf?
No.
Not that I'm aware of. I'm waiting on that 10-year-old's handwriting to get a little bit better, but maybe one day I can employ them. Until then, no replacement for that.
We dropped some holiday cards off in the mail this morning, and still to this point, it requires a trip to the post office for us to drop off those photographs of our family and wishing everyone a happy holiday season. So those tasks become incredibly important as well. The other thing that shows up in the task, I got a call from someone who I ridiculously respect inside of our community, inside of KW. Dick Dillingham called me at the beginning of 2024. And he called me, I remember it was on January 2nd, and he said, "Hey, I'm making my phone calls today to the people that I know and that know me, and I'm seeing how they are." And it was a 3-minute conversation. He said he was making 60 phone calls in that day. He learned a ton, got to talk to a lot of people. And what he was following was a system of remembering who to call. I don't know about many of you on the screen. I can't remember the 60 people I'd need to call that I didn't touch or didn't check in with in the fourth quarter unless I had a task reminder to say, hey, don't forget to call these individuals. So here's an example of 3 of the many tools inside of our command ecosystem.
And I think it was a great point that you mentioned, because all of these are items that can be done today that can be executed upon in the future. Right. So, thinking about New Year's Day seems to be a really popular Happy New Year or New Year's Eve, depending on which one you want to do. Hopefully you're spending time with friends and family on that day, right? And not actually working. Now, if you choose to work, no one can spoil a good holiday like telling you not to work. And yet, if you choose not to work, all 3 of these items that we just talked about have date-based triggers involved in them, such that I could build a smart plan today and say, hey, command, fire this smart plan to these individuals, but not today. Fire it on 12/31, 1/1, whichever that might be, right? I'm going to build out an email campaign, but I don't want it to send out until 12/31, 1/1, right? Hey, tasks, I'm going to call my top 20 clients on New Year's Day. That's the only work I'm going to do. Then I'm going to sit down and watch some football and kind of hang out, eat some black eyed peas, whatever your tradition is. Exactly. But I'm going to only do that, right, on the first. I'm just going to reminder today to call those 20 people. So if there was nuggets to kind of walk away with, what are you going to do today that allows you some freedom on 12/31, on 1/1, on 12/25, whatever that holiday is that you're going to take some time off on, that you can still touch people, right, in a very important time to do. I think there was a great comment in the chat. Someone was talking about the tags. Michelle said, hey, those tags need to be updated regularly. Right? Which is such a great point. It can't be a set it and forget it. Hey, Mike likes pickles. Well, if I don't follow up with Mike and find out 2 years from now that Mike developed a pickle allergy and that I'm sending him something that could potentially put him in the hospital, that's going to be really awkward. Right? You all know that I have 4 young daughters, but if you send me something that revolves around 4 young daughters 10 years from now, it doesn't hit, because now my kids are all, in high school and college. So updating the tags, super important. Making sure that you're staying on top of that, right? And getting through there. Mike, what's your thoughts there?
Less Ron Popeil, set it and forget it. More Marie Kondo. Does this tag bring you joy? Does this tag help bring you connection?
Yeah, tell them who Marie Kondo is, because I always forget.
Do you remember all the craze in COVID where everybody was cleaning up and organizing everything? That's Marie Kondo.
Great. Okay.
I'll send you the book.
That was someone different. And so I'm glad you clarified, because I had to, I didn't verify there. Who's that at? All right, guys. So let's land the plane. Let's put it all together. What can you do now, right? What can you do today? What can you do over the next 2 weeks? Because I hate to tell you this, 25 will be here literally in 2 weeks plus 2 days. It's going to be here just like that. Hopefully you all realize that. Creating a plan to stay in Mindshare with your database. If I asked you right now, what is your touch plan for 2025? Could you detail it? Right. I don't know how many of you joined Tech the Halls, but I had the opportunity to interview Ryan during Tech the Halls. She has a 76 touch plan. And I was like, Ryan, that is so many touches. And then in 3 minutes, she was able to list out all 76 touches, right? It was 3 emails per month revolving around X, Y, and Z, right? Then it was this number of calls to these people, X, Y, and Z. And it was clearly laid out. Now, I'm not telling all of you to go do a 76 touch. And she was even very transparent during that call. It took her 3 years to develop that plan, right? But what is your 12 touch? What is your 24 touch? What is your 36 touch? Greg is connecting me with Marie in the chat. I appreciate that, sir. Right? What is your consistent plan for 2025? And remember, even if it was one email per month, you have some great tools already in command, like the monthly neighborhood nurture, right? By far my favorite smart plan that we have. It does require, obviously, that you have an email and an address, but assuming you have those information, those two key pieces of information, that client lives in a next door neighborhood, you now at least have a 12 touch plan such that you can provide hyper local market information to those clients about properties that are being listed and going under contract in their area. So if I were to ask as your coach, what's your plan? In the next 2 weeks, could you put together a plan that included emails, texts in a TCPA friendly and compliant sort of way, phone calls in a TCPA friendly and compliant sort of way? Are you going to do any events in 2025? Right? Are you going to do any pop buys in 2025? And, as Mike and Tim both referenced, who are those micro batches that are going to get each one? Right? The monthly neighborhood nurture is pretty simple. I can do the entire database there. But what are the groups you're going to focus on? And I think that's an important point, Mike, because sometimes we talk about, whether it's a 33, a 36 touch for my entire database. There could be some silos in that area as well, correct?
You will always have groups, right? I mean, chances are you probably have some different friend groups you've hung out with over the years, right? You know people in certain contexts, and the same sentence in one context is completely different meaning in another room. And so, you have to be as authentic as possible. So these tools are designed to help you stay on top of who you want to be more often. Secret is the consistency.
And then who's going to hold you accountable, right? Tim, what's the best tip you have for taking action? Because I think we all, right? What is, if you go to the gym, you're like, okay, January's, kind of rough because there's so many people there, but by Valentine's Day, it's right back to where it started. Like, how do we make sure that we're not setting New Year's resolutions to create an amazing touch plan, and then by Valentine's Day, it's gone out the window?
Yeah, so I think it's all about selecting that bite-sized first touch, that bite-sized first action that you're willing to take that first step. For some of you that are on here, a lot of this command stuff may be totally new. It may either be new to you because you're new to the company or visiting us today, or it may be new to you because you've been using another system up to this part. Your first step might actually be spending some time over the next 2 weeks educating yourself on, all right, how do I run an effective smart plan? And utilizing resources like your market center tech trainer or your regional tech trainer or some guy that created a great YouTube channel that has a whole bunch of videos that may or may not be on this screen, Marty Miller. That's pointing the right way for me too, Mike. Thanks for that. It may be finding another training class that you can download for free and take a look at our educational calendar and see where are my gaps so that I know how to do what I intend to do. But bringing it back to what am I willing to do first between now and the end of the year, so that this plan is moving forward. And then it moves us right into MREA page 188. I've had the privilege over the years of being in multiple trainings with the two gentlemen on here, Mike and Marty. We know this like in our sleep, but as a good reminder, what does it say on page 188 of MREA?
So it talks about the 4 laws of lead generation. Mike, number 1.
Build a database.
Number 2.
Feed it every day.
Number 3, which we talked about a whole lot today,
is communicate with it in a systematic way.
And number 4, I think everybody's favorite.
Service the all the leads, all the leads that come your way, because they're reaching out for your help.
How do you grow a bigger database in 2025? How do you grow a bigger business in 2025? They're really interconnected, right? They're really interlinked. A couple of messages in the chat about, will this be recorded? First of all, I referenced Tech the Halls earlier. Unfortunately, that was a live event, so that event was not recorded. But all of your MAPS calls, this one and the 16 following, I think we have 2 happening noonish if you're CST, and then maybe 2:30. Don't hold me to that. Just click on the link that Graham has put in the chat. Check out those and the remainder. But 17 calls happening this week. They are all being recorded. So for those of you that might be multitasking during this call, it's okay. It's a myth, but we'll forgive you. You can go back and watch on the Maps YouTube channel starting tomorrow. Those will start, or within the next 48 hours. Sorry, Graham, I'm over committing there. Within the next 48, maybe 72 hours, we'll start getting all of these recordings posted to the YouTube channel. If you have a team, if you have a market center, if you want to go back and replay these during meetings, you definitely have that opportunity as well. Tamara, should the touches be based upon the micro batches? Mike, what's your thought there?
Does your conversation change based on the person you're talking to, or do you have the same conversation with everybody? Is usually kind of the like counter check to that. I do like to very personalize this. And so if they're in like a certain, like if their, high school football team made the playoffs this year, and that's really important because there are kids on the football team, I'm going to include that in the conversation.
Yeah, 100%. I think my response is yes and. Right? Some of them you're probably going to create for specific groups once you have those micro batches. If you haven't micro batched your database, then we're going to start with everybody. But then we're going to realize that we might be shouting into a vacuum, right? So we might want to go through the database and start saying, how can I micro batch this, and then add additional touches. Right? Kelly Cody is one of my favorite people. If you send her an invite to a Super Bowl party, one, she's going to reply back, what sports ball? And two, she's probably not going to attend, even though she's an amazing person and you wish that she brought any kind of baked goods because she's an amazing baker. So who in your world would even be interested in coming to a Super Bowl party, right? Are you inviting people that don't get into sports or not interested in sports and may even ruin the event for others by talking during the game, right? So who do you have? Mike's like, I always talk during the game.
Yeah,
Mike,
you don't talk during commercials, you talk during the game.
Yeah, well, ruin the commercials too, right? Don't ruin the commercials for me. Tim, any last closing remarks to kind of wrap us up here today as we get on our way for the next 16 calls scheduled for the rest of this week?
Yeah, when we hang up together today, pull out your calendar and put on your schedule when you're taking that first step. Whatever that first step is to you. If it's education and learning how, if it's committing to a plan with your MAPS coach, if it is putting together your SMART plan so that you can be systematic in your approach to 2025, block out that 30-minute block to take that first step.
Mike?
I think when I look back at really what kind of set things going, I hired a coach in October to help me stay to this because I knew how important this was to building my own database. And so I used that to help like my relationship with that coach to like help me pull out of my own excuses and get moving forward. And so I got some help along the way. So get some help.
I'll take you back to that very first set of exercises. You said the best running shoe is Nike, although it's probably not, but I bet you can also remember their slogan.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it, right? How much brand awareness does Nike have that you think the best running shoe is a Nike shoe, even though technically they were originally created as a basketball sport shoe, right? If you think about it, and you know their slogan, just do it. Because once you get into it and you get really good at it, then it'll be McDonald's slogan, which is, I'm loving it. Yep, now it's not going to be out of your head, right? So on behalf of Tim, on behalf of Mike, Graham, give Graham a shout out in the chat, keeping us all in line. I'm going to put that link one more time for the YouTube channel for Maps. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe to that channel, an amazing channel, a lot of information. Just do it so that you get to loving it, so that you've got your batches, your micro batches, all of your touches, of course, in your TCPA friendly and compliant sort of way. Whatever the holiday is that you all celebrate or holidays that you celebrate over the next several weeks, we hope you enjoy them with friends and family. Take a little bit of time off and be prepared for an amazing 2025. We'll look forward to seeing you guys in Vegas at Family Reunion. And until then, all of our best. Take care, guys. Have an amazing day.